The distress beacon screamed across 17 star systems before anyone bothered to acknowledge it, not because it was weak. Oh no. The Quellix emergency transponder was broadcasting at full military strength, punching through subspace like a dying star's last gasp. The problem was simpler, and far more damning. Nobody wanted to get involved. I should know. I was the one who sent it. My name is Vrenn, communications officer aboard the Quellix mining station designated Harvest Point 7. And right now, watching the sensor display flicker with the approaching signatures of what I can only describe as biological impossibilities wrapped in gunmetal, I am experiencing what humans apparently call regret. Let me back up. 3 cycles ago, the Kartheen Syndicate decided our little mining operation was sitting on their territory. Never mind that we had been extracting rare minerals from this asteroid belt for 6 standard years. Never mind the legal contracts, the treaties, the very expensive lawyers my people hired to argue jurisdiction. The Kartheen do not negotiate, they consume. Their fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a plague, 12 warships bristling with enough firepower to glass a small moon. Our defense grid lasted exactly 47 seconds. Our escort frigates, vapor and debris within 2 minutes. Our station shields were holding at 18% when I made the call nobody wanted to make. I activated the Universal Distress Protocol. For those unfamiliar with galactic politics, the UDP is basically admitting you are completely, utterly, catastrophically doomed. It broadcasts your coordinates, your situation, and a desperate plea for assistance to every registered military force within range. In theory, the nearest Alliance fleet rushes to your aid. In theory. Reality is messier. The Valorian Empire was closest. Their response came within an hour. Acknowledge distress signal. Unfortunately, current political climate with Kartheen Syndicate prevents direct intervention. Suggest immediate evacuation. Good luck. Good luck. As if wishes could stop plasma torpedoes. The Rixian Collective was next. We sympathize with your situation. However, our defense pact specifically excludes engagements in neutral zones. We have forwarded your coordinates to the Galactic Peacekeeping Council. Estimated response time, 3 to 5 standard days. We had maybe 6 hours, probably less. 4 more governments sent variations of the same message. Legal excuses, political complications, budgetary constraints. The galaxy, it turns out, is full of very good reasons to let someone else handle the problem. By hour 3, the Kartheen had begun their boarding assault. Station Commander Helix, bless his 3 hearts, organized a desperate defense. Maintenance workers wielding plasma cutters, kitchen staff throwing whatever they could grab. It was brave and pointless and heartbreaking. I stayed at my console because somebody had to monitor the channels, somebody had to witness our extinction with proper documentation, and somebody had to watch the sensor display when something absolutely impossible appeared at the edge of detection range. Vrenn, my assistant, a young Quellix named Porix, pointed at the screen with a trembling claw. What am I looking at? I stared at the readings. Then I checked the equipment for malfunctions. Then I stared some more. That cannot be right, I muttered. The signatures were all wrong. Too hot, too fast, too aggressive. Whatever was approaching was burning through space at velocities that should have torn apart any ship built with known materials. The engine signatures were unfamiliar, probably experimental, definitely dangerous. The formation was strange too, spread wide like predators flanking prey. Most concerning? The transponder codes identified them as Terran vessels. Humans? Porix's voice cracked. Humans answered our beacon? Apparently. I checked the database, my claws dancing across the holographic interface. Says here they only achieved faster than light travel 32 years ago. Recently admitted to the Galactic Council as a Class 4 civilization. Homeworld designated as... what? Class 12 Deathworld. Environmental hazard rating. Extreme. Native species classification. Persistence, predator, pack hunter, adaptable omnivore. I looked at Porix. Their planet is considered uninhabitable by Council standards. Then why are they allowed in Council space? Because nobody wanted to be the one to tell them no. The human fleet was closing fast now. I counted 27 distinct signatures. Not a large force by galactic standards, but moving with disturbing coordination. The lead ship was broadcasting something on open channels. I patched it through. A voice crackled across the speakers. Male, probably. Human vocal patterns were still unfamiliar to most species. The translator struggled for a moment before catching up. Harvest Point 7. This is Captain Marcus Trent of the Terran Defense Initiative ship Relentless. We received your distress call. Sorry about the delay. We were on the other side of the Crucible Nebula when your beacon reached us. What is your situation? I actually laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Captain Trent, our situation is approximately 600 Kartheen shock troopers currently fighting their way through our commercial district. Our shields are failing, our weapons are depleted, and the Kartheen battle group is preparing to crack this station open like a meal container. Unless your 27 ships can somehow defeat their 12 capital ships, I suggest you retreat while you still can. There was a pause, then laughter. Human laughter, which sounds unsettlingly aggressive to Quellix ears. Multiple voices joined in, creating a chorus of what could only be described as predatory amusement. 27? Captain Trent's voice carried notes I could not quite identify. Excitement? Anger? Both. Ma'am, you're reading our escort wing. The actual fleet is still jumping in. The sensors went absolutely insane. Space itself seemed to tear open as 78 additional ships materialized from hyperspace in a perfectly synchronized drop. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and 3 absolutely monstrous dreadnoughts that made the Kartheen warships look like mining shuttles. The formation spread out with mechanical precision, weapons already hot, targeting solutions already locked. Sweet merciful void, Porix whispered. The Kartheen noticed too. Their fleet immediately shifted from siege formation to battle-ready, bringing all weapons to bear on the new arrivals. For a moment, both forces simply stared at each other across the black gulf of space. The calm before something extremely loud and violent. Captain Trent's voice came through again, no longer addressed to us. This broadcast went directly to the Kartheen command ship. Kartheen Syndicate vessel, this is Captain Marcus Trent of the Terran Defense Initiative. You are engaged in hostile action against a civilian station that requested aid under Universal Distress Protocol. You have 3 minutes to cease your assault, withdraw your boarding parties, and retreat to minimum safe distance. Failure to comply will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. The Kartheen response was predictable. Their commander, a particularly nasty piece of work named Throck, replied with the usual threats. Superior firepower, galactic law on their side. Humans had no jurisdiction here. The station was in contested space. The Quellix were trespassing. Various anatomically creative suggestions about what Captain Trent could do with his ultimatum. Standard Kartheen diplomacy, in other words. Trent waited until Throck finished. Then, in a voice so calm it made my scales itch. Yeah, that's what I thought you would say. All ships, weapons free. Let's educate these idiots about why you do, not ignore a human distress response. What happened next violated approximately 40% of what I thought I knew about space combat. The human fleet did not behave like any military force I had studied. There was no cautious probing, no testing of defenses, no preliminary strike to gauge response. They simply attacked with a ferocity that made the Kartheen look civilized. The first salvo turned 3 Kartheen destroyers into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. Railgun slugs, apparently, accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. The humans did not use energy shields for offense. They just threw metal, really fast metal. The Kartheen returned fire, their plasma cannons lighting up the void. But the human ships were already moving, executing evasive patterns that should have required 3 times as many maneuvering thrusters as they actually had. They danced through the barrage like it was choreographed, like they had done this 1,000 times before. They are insane, Porix breathed. They are absolutely insane. Yes, I agreed. And they are winning. A Kartheen cruiser managed to land a direct hit on one of the human destroyers. The shields flared bright enough to leave spots in my vision flickering under the assault. For a moment, I thought the ship was done. But it just rotated, presenting a fresh shield facing, and kept firing, kept moving, kept fighting. The human dreadnoughts opened up with their main batteries. I do not have adequate words to describe the weapons they deployed. missiles that performed impossible turns, beam weapons that carved through armor like it was decorative, and something the tactical display simply labeled as kinetic bombardment slugs that hit with enough force to crack a Kartheen battleship clean in half. Harvest Point 7. Captain Trent again, somehow finding time to check on us while orchestrating this ballet of destruction. How are those boarding parties treating you? Commander, Helix responded, his voice strained. We are holding Sector 9 and 12, but they have taken everything else. Casualties are mounting. We cannot hold much longer. Understood. Relentless actual to Marine Strike Group Alpha. You are go for boarding action. Breach points uploaded to your nav systems. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Show these Kartheen what happens when you mess with someone under Earth's protection. Copy that. Marines are inbound. ETA 4 minutes. I switched to external cameras just in time to see the assault shuttles launch. 36 craft, small and mean-looking, burning toward the station at speeds that made my eyes water. The Kartheen tried to shoot them down. Several exploded in brilliant fireballs. But the rest kept coming, twisting and dodging with that same impossible agility the larger ships displayed. They hit the station hull like meteorites, cutting through with shaped charges and flooding into our corridors. I pulled up internal sensors, watching in horrified fascination as the first contact happened in Sector 7. The Kartheen shock troopers were professionals, battle-hardened, well-armed. They turned to face the human breach with weapons ready and zero hesitation. For approximately 5 seconds, they had the advantage. Then the humans came through. I have studied human biology. I know the facts. They are not the strongest species, not the fastest, not the most durable, but they are persistence hunters, from a death world where everything evolved to either eat them or be eaten by them. And somewhere in their violent evolutionary history, they developed something no other species quite managed. They learned to enjoy the fight. The combat footage showed armored figures moving with terrifying efficiency, weapons fire so precise it bordered on prescient, tactics that flowed like water around obstacles, and absolutely zero hesitation. The humans did not pause, did not question, did not fear. They just advanced relentlessly, like the tide. They are like machines, Porix said. No. I watched a human soldier take 3 plasma hits that should have killed him. Stumble, shake it off, and keep fighting. Machines break. These things adapt. Outside, the space battle had turned into a rout. The Kartheen were retreating, their formation shattered, half their fleet disabled or destroyed. The human ships pursued just long enough to make the point clear, then broke off. No glory chasing, no unnecessary risks, just professional military brutality. Inside, the boarding parties were systematically clearing the station, sector by sector, room by room. Every time the Kartheen tried to make a stand, the humans flanked them, suppressed them, overwhelmed them. It was not a fight, it was an education. 30 minutes after the first humans set foot on Harvest Point 7, Commander Helix transmitted the all clear. The Kartheen were either dead, captured, or fleeing in escape pods. Our station was secure, our people were saved, and I was trying very hard not to think about what we had just witnessed. Captain Trent's face appeared on my display, human, male, surprisingly young-looking, though I had learned not to trust human age appearances. His expression was what I think they call a smile, though it looked uncomfortably like a threat display. Harvest Point 7. Situation is secure. We are deploying medical teams and damage control specialists to assist with casualties and repairs. Our fleet will maintain defensive perimeter until Galactic Council peacekeepers arrive. You folks okay? I looked around at the shattered consoles, the emergency lighting, the faces of my surviving crewmates. We were alive. Against all probability, against all logic, we were still breathing. We are better than we were, Captain. Thank you seems inadequate. You sent a distress call, we answered. That is what you do. He paused. Fair warning, though. The Council is going to have opinions about humans conducting military operations in neutral space. There will be hearings, investigations, political nonsense. You okay with that? Captain Trent, you saved over 3,000 lives today. I will testify at every hearing they want, with enthusiasm. That smile again, still unsettling. Appreciate that. We will have personnel aboard shortly. Trent out. The display went dark. I sat back in my chair, my claws still trembling slightly. Porix looked at me with wide eyes. Vrenn, what just happened? We learned something important about humans, Porix. What? When the rest of the galaxy says no, when everyone else finds an excuse, when you are completely out of options and facing certain death. I pulled up the tactical replay, watching those human ships tear through space like avenging demons. The humans say yes, and they bring friends. Outside my window, the human fleet maintained their patrol. Silent, vigilant, ready. I had sent a distress call expecting to die with proper documentation. Instead, I got front-row seats to the most terrifying rescue operation in recorded history. Welcome to the galaxy, humanity. We are never going to be the same. The human medical teams arrived like a controlled invasion. I say this because watching them work was like observing a military operation disguised as humanitarian aid. They moved through our damaged corridors in organized groups, carrying equipment that looked both advanced and disturbingly improvised. One medic passed my station carrying what appeared to be a standard trauma kit, strapped to something that might have been a weapon mount in a previous life. Efficiency, apparently, was a human religion. Officer Vrenn? A voice behind me, speaking surprisingly good Quellix. I turned to find a human female in medical insignia, shorter than most of her species, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to catalogue everything in a single glance. I am Dr. Amara Okonkwo, Chief Medical Officer from the carrier Indomitable. We are establishing triage stations in your main cargo bay. Can you direct me to your medical facilities? Most of our medical wing is. I paused, checking the damage reports. Exposed to vacuum. We lost it during the initial assault. Her expression did not change, but something flickered in those eyes. Anger, maybe, or determination. Then we work with what we have. I will need a complete casualty list, priority coding, and someone who knows the station layout. I can provide all of that. Good. Also, fair warning, my trauma teams are very good at their jobs, but they are also very loud, very direct, and do not believe in bedside manner when lives are on the line. If they seem rude, they are just focused. Doctor, they just saved us from certain death. They can be as rude as they want. She smiled, and unlike Captain Trent's predatory grin, this one seemed genuinely warm. I like you already. Let us save some lives. Over the next 4 hours, I watched human medicine in action. It was simultaneously impressive and terrifying. They did not ask permission. They did not debate treatment options. They assessed, decided, and acted with a speed that left our own medical staff stammering. A Quellix engineer with severe plasma burns was stabilized, treated, and recovering before our doctors finished reviewing his chart. How are they doing this? Porix asked, watching a human medic perform what looked like surgery in the middle of a corridor, using a tool that was definitely not designed for medical purposes. Improvisation, I said. Humans apparently excel at it. That looks like a plasma cutter. Modified plasma cutter. Notice the precision controls? That is insane. Yes, but it works. Commander Helix found me around hour 6. He looked exhausted, his carapace cracked in 3 places, one eye swollen shut. But he was alive, and according to the human medic trailing behind him, stable enough for duty. Vrenn. Situation. Report. I pulled up the data. Final casualty count. 247 dead, 619 wounded. 73% of wounded are expected to make full recovery thanks to human medical intervention. Station structural integrity is at 41%. Life support is functional in primary sectors. The humans are assisting with emergency repairs. And the Kartheen? Their fleet withdrew to beyond sensor range. 3 ships destroyed, 5 heavily damaged. They left behind approximately 400 boarding troops. 312 are dead, 88 captured. The rest escaped in pods before the humans could secure all sectors. Helix processed this, his antennae twitching. We won. The humans won. We survived. Semantics. He looked at the displays showing human personnel throughout the station. Have they made any demands? Requested payment? Claimed salvage rights? No, Commander. They have been. I searched for the right word. Helpful. Aggressively helpful. They keep asking what we need, then providing it before we finish explaining. That seems suspicious. I thought so too. So I asked one of their engineers why they were doing this. I pulled up the recording. A human male, covered in grease, holding something that might have been a power coupling, grinning at the camera. Want to know what he said? Helix nodded. I played the clip. The engineer's voice was cheerful, completely at odds with the carnage surrounding him. Why? Because you needed help, mate. That is literally the only reason required. Now, you want this power grid functional or not? The commander stared at the screen. They came all this way, fought a battle, deployed medical and engineering support, and their explanation is because you needed help? Apparently. That is the most illogical military doctrine I have ever encountered. And yet, here we are, alive. Before Helix could respond, the proximity alarm started, screaming. Every screen in the command center lit up with warnings. Incoming vessels. Lots of them. "The Kartheen are back!" Porix yelled, panic clear in his voice. I checked the signatures and felt my scales go cold. No, worse. That is a Kartheen primary battle fleet. 43 capital ships. They brought reinforcements. The communication system crackled to life. Captain Trent's voice, still impossibly calm. "Harvest Point 7, we are tracking the incoming hostiles. Recommend all station personnel move to interior shelters. This might get loud." "Captain," Helix transmitted, "you are outnumbered almost 3 to 1. You should withdraw. We cannot ask you to die for us." "Commander, with respect, you did not ask. We volunteered. And before you start composing our eulogies, you should know that we called in a few friends of our own. Human friends. They get very annoyed when people interrupt rescue operations. The sensors detected new hyperspace signatures. A lot of them." "Oh dear gods," I whispered. Space seemed to crack open as the reinforcements arrived. Not dozens of ships, not hundreds. The humans brought an entire battle group, carriers, dreadnoughts, support vessels, and one absolutely massive ship that defied classification, easily twice the size of anything else in the system. "Harvest Point 7, this is Admiral Keiko Yamamoto aboard the TDI Sovereign. We are assuming command of this theater. All Terran forces execute Battle Plan Omaha. Let us remind the Kartheen why Earth does not lose." What followed was not a battle, it was a demonstration. The human fleet moved as a single organism, every ship perfectly coordinated. They did not charge blindly. They did not rely on superior numbers. They used tactics that seemed pulled from a dozen different military traditions, blended into something uniquely human. The Kartheen opened fire first, their plasma batteries lighting up space. The humans scattered, their formation breaking into smaller groups that wove through the barrage like schools of fish. Then they countered, and the difference in weapon technology became painfully apparent. Railguns, missiles, beam weapons, kinetic bombardment. The humans threw everything at the Kartheen, each weapon system covering the weaknesses of the others. When shields blocked energy weapons, kinetic slugs punched through. When point defense stopped missiles, beams carved into armor. It was combined arms warfare elevated to an art form. "They are not just fighting," Helix observed, watching the tactical display. "They are teaching." He was right. The humans were not trying to win quickly. They were systematically dismantling the Kartheen fleet, demonstrating the futility of resistance. Every time the Kartheen tried a new tactic, the humans countered it, decisively, overwhelmingly. Then they would pause, as if giving their opponents time to consider surrender. The Kartheen, to their credit or stupidity, kept fighting. Admiral Yamamoto's voice cut through the chaos. "Kartheen command vessel, this is your final warning. Cease hostilities immediately, or we will transition to unrestricted warfare. You have 60 seconds to respond." The Kartheen commander, a different one this time, replied with typical bravado. Threats, promises of revenge, claims of syndicate reinforcements, the usual posturing. 50 seconds. More threats, more promises. 30 seconds. The Kartheen fleet began charging weapons for a full alpha strike. Every ship, every gun. They were going to throw everything at the human formation in one massive barrage. 10 seconds. "I genuinely hope you reconsider." They did not. "All ships, execute Hammerfall protocol. Fire." The Sovereign opened up with its main weapon. I do not know what it was. The technical classification just read as experimental kinetic bombardment system. What I saw was a lance of pure violence that crossed the distance between fleets in a fraction of a second and hit the Kartheen flagship dead center. The ship did not explode, it disintegrated. One moment, a massive warship bristling with weapons. The next, a rapidly expanding cloud of component atoms. The shockwave alone disabled 3 nearby cruisers. "Sweet void," Porix breathed. The rest of the human fleet fired in perfect synchronization. Not at the ships, at their engines. Every Kartheen vessel suddenly found itself without propulsion, drifting helplessly in space. Alive, intact, but completely neutralized. "Kartheen forces, you are now disabled and at our mercy," Admiral Yamamoto announced. "Surrender immediately, or we will target life support next. You have 30 seconds. This time, they surrendered. Quickly, enthusiastically. The kind of surrender that comes from suddenly realizing you are vastly outmatched by an enemy who has been holding back. The human fleet maintained position, weapons still hot, while boarding parties secured the Kartheen vessels. Professional, efficient, no gloating, no unnecessary violence, just soldiers doing a job. Captain Trent appeared on my screen again. "Commander Helix, Officer Vrenn, situation is secure. The Kartheen are in custody. Galactic Council peacekeepers will arrive in approximately 8 hours. We will maintain presence until transfer of authority is complete." "Captain," Helix said slowly, "your people just defeated a Kartheen primary battle fleet with minimal casualties. The Council is going to demand explanations." "Yeah, probably. But here is the thing, Commander. Earth joined the Galactic Council with certain expectations. One of those was that the Universal Distress Protocol actually meant something. That when someone calls for help, someone answers." His expression hardened. "We discovered today that most of the galaxy treats the UDP as a suggestion. A nice idea with no teeth. Earth disagrees. Strongly. You are going to start a political incident." "Commander, we just ended one. The Kartheen have been pulling this expansion nonsense for years because nobody wanted to stop them. Well, now someone has. And if the Council has a problem with humans enforcing their own laws, they can file a complaint." That predatory smile again. "We will file it appropriately." The transmission ended. Helix looked at me. "Vrenn, what have we done?" "We sent a distress call, Commander. Everything else was human initiative. The Council is going to lose their minds. Probably. But we are alive to see it." Over the next several hours, the human presence on Harvest Point 7 became almost mundane. They were everywhere, fixing things, helping people, treating casualties. They set up field kitchens and started feeding everyone, regardless of species. One group of human engineers rebuilt an entire power distribution node in 3 hours, using spare parts and what appeared to be sheer stubbornness. Dr. Okonkwo found me again around hour 12. "Officer Vrenn, final medical report. All critical patients are stabilized. We will need to evacuate about 40 individuals for specialized treatment, but everyone else can recover here. Your medical staff did excellent work under impossible circumstances. Thank you, Doctor, for everything." "You are welcome. Also, I need to apologize." "For what?" "My people can be intense. We are not always good at understanding that other species find our approach to crisis management somewhat aggressive. If we offended anyone, it was not intentional." I looked at this human who had spent 12 hours saving lives, who looked exhausted but was still checking on patients, and I laughed. Actually laughed. "Dr. Okonkwo, your people showed up when nobody else would, fought a battle they did not have to fight, saved thousands of lives, and are now apologizing for being too helpful. If that is aggressive, please be more aggressive." She smiled again, that warm human expression. "I will pass that along to the Admiral. She will enjoy it." The Galactic Council peacekeepers arrived exactly on schedule. A small fleet of outdated frigates carrying diplomats who immediately began complaining about human military overreach, violations of neutral space protocols, and excessive use of force. Admiral Yamamoto listened politely for exactly 3 minutes before interrupting. "With respect, Council representatives, the Kartheen Syndicate conducted an unprovoked assault on a civilian installation, murdered hundreds of beings, and were preparing to destroy the entire station when we arrived. Terran Defense Initiative responded to a legitimate distress call, engaged hostile forces in self-defense of a third party, and secured the area. If your forces had responded promptly, our intervention would not have been necessary. You had no jurisdiction. The lead diplomat, a Valorian, sputtered indignantly. The Universal Distress Protocol grants jurisdiction to any responding force. We responded. Therefore, we had jurisdiction. If you wish to debate this further, Earth has very good lawyers who specialize in galactic maritime law. I can provide their contact information. The argument went on for another hour, but the outcome was inevitable. The humans had followed the letter of the law, even if they had done so with overwhelming force and questionable enthusiasm. The Council could complain, but they could not actually punish Earth without admitting they had failed to respond to a legitimate distress call. Political convenience won over moral outrage. Again, as the Council ships began processing prisoners and documenting damage, Captain Trent gathered the human forces for departure. I watched from the observation deck as their fleet prepared to leave. Ships that had terrified me hours ago now looked almost protective, guardian angels in gunmetal. Trent made one final transmission. Harvest Point 7, this is Captain Trent. We are departing system. Recommend you upgrade your defense grid and maybe relocate to somewhere less contested. And if you ever need help again, do not hesitate to call. Earth remembers its friends. Captain, I replied, I hope we never need to make that call. But if we do, I am glad to know humans will answer. Always. Safe travels, Vrenn. Trent out. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect formation, disappearing as dramatically as they had arrived. The system suddenly felt very empty. Commander Helix joined me at the window. Vrenn, I have been reviewing the after-action reports. The casualty ratios are absurd. The humans lost 11 personnel. 11. In a battle against hundreds of enemy combatants. They train for this, Commander. Their entire history is warfare and survival. They are very, very good at it. Yes, and now they are loose in the galaxy with a moral imperative to rescue people. He made a sound somewhere between amusement and horror. The Council is terrified. They just will not admit it publicly. Should they be? Terrified, I mean? Helix considered this. The humans could have demanded payment, salvage rights, political concessions, mining rights to this entire belt. We were helpless. They could have named any price. But they did not. No, they saved us because we asked for help, because it was the right thing to do, because their species apparently has a psychological compulsion toward protecting strangers. He turned to look at me. Vrenn, what do you do with a species that powerful, that advanced, that terrifyingly competent, but also that fundamentally decent? I thought about Captain Trent's smile, Dr. Okonkwo's kindness, the engineer who fixed our power grid because we needed help, the Marine who gave a Quellix child his ration bar because she was scared and hungry. All the small moments of humanity I had witnessed in the chaos. You make them your friends, Commander. You make very sure they remain your friends. Because I suspect the alternative would be unpleasant. Agreed. In the days that followed, the story spread. The humans who answered a distress call, everyone else ignored. The fleet that appeared when nobody else would. The species from a death world who fought like demons but treated casualties with unprecedented care. It became legend almost immediately, growing with each retelling. The Kartheen Syndicate filed formal protests with the Galactic Council. The Council formed committees to study the incident. Diplomats argued about jurisdiction and force parameters. Politicians made speeches about the importance of following proper procedures. And quietly, without fanfare, dozens of species started updating their emergency protocols. New entries appeared in military databases, notes in the margins of distress call procedures. Helpful suggestions passed along unofficial channels. If you are in trouble and the Council cannot help, call Earth. The humans will answer. They always answer. 6 months later, I received a package. No return address. Just a simple datapad with a message. Officer Vrenn. Heard you got that defense grid upgraded. Smart move. Stay safe out there. If you ever need anything, you know who to call. Your friends in the Terran Defense Initiative. Attached was a direct communication code, priority routing, guaranteed response time. And a small note at the bottom. P.S. We never wanted to be the galaxy's emergency services, but apparently everyone else was busy. So here we are. Humans. Because somebody has to answer the call. I keep that datapad on my desk. A reminder of the day the humans taught the galaxy an uncomfortable lesson. That power without compassion is tyranny. That strength without mercy is cruelty. And that sometimes the scariest monsters in the universe are the ones who show up to save you, because they will absolutely save you, whether you want them to or not, whether it is convenient or not, whether it is political or not. They will come, they will fight, they will win. And then they will ask if you need anything else. The galaxy is still adjusting to this reality. The established powers are nervous. The old empires are re-evaluating their strategies. Everyone is suddenly very interested in maintaining good relations with Earth. As for me, I sleep better knowing that somewhere out there, a fleet of impossible ships crewed by Deathworld predators is watching, waiting, ready to answer the next distress call that everyone else will ignore. They never wanted humans in the galaxy. Nobody asked for a species this stubborn, this capable, this fundamentally committed to helping strangers. But here they are, and thank the void for that.